Welcome back to my story about the cheapest Rolls Royce in Europe. I got the parts, super excited. I had ordered a bunch of parts from the UK. Let's see. Okay, 307 pounds. Distributor rotor, and inside they got the two filters, the carburettors. What's this? Oil filter kit. Yep. Lucas ignition coil, original. What's this? Fuel filter. I imagined it to be larger, but that's what it looks like. And this is probably the air filter. Yep, air filter right there. And we got rotor, ignition distributor rotor, and the points. Good, all is here. Let's start installing and see if that makes any difference. I'm going to start with the ignition system because the fuel stuff is just more of a pain to deal with. So I'm going to start with the ignition system and see if that makes any difference. And then once that's done, I will change the fuel filters. I have big hopes for that, but let's start with the ignition system first. Distributor cap, rotor, and points. One thing I noticed just now is as I was pushing this one came out way too easily, and it turned out that this was peeled back and maybe it wasn't making contact at all. So, and I can see some oxidation here on the wire. As of now, I'm not replacing the wires themselves. I'm just going to clean them up and see if everything starts running fine. But I'm also going to tighten them a little bit here just to make sure that they're making good contact, because this one is very loose. And actually I have to expand them, not tighten them, to make good contact on the outside of that terminal here. The wires here are labeled for each cylinder, but in order to make sure there are no mistakes, I'm just going to put the new cap here and just transfer the wires one by one to the equivalent position on the new one. So pop off the old cap to make sure the orientation of the new one is going to be correct. Okay. The battery is disconnected, of course. Make sure you don't mess with the ignition stuff when the battery is connected. It's either in this orientation. No, it's not clicking. Or the other way around, 180 degrees. Ah, there we go. Okay, that's the correct orientation. That clicks in and doesn't rotate. Okay, so keeping this orientation, transfer over all the wires, each one individually. I'm also going to clean them in the process. This one looks pretty clean, actually. I am feeling some resistance when pushing it in, so it's making good contact. The ones that are not, I'm just going to expand a little bit, but the ones that seem fine, I'm not going to mess with. I don't want to change their factory dimensions. This one looks fine too. So the other one must have just gotten popped off, and due to not making contact, it started rusting or oxidizing. So this is the problematic one that came off easily. Yep, still coming off easily. Yeah, you gotta clean that up. Okay, cleaned that up with a wire brush. Looks much better now. And I'm gonna plug it in and see how it feels in terms of resistance. There should be some resistance to show that it's making contact. Yep. I also stretched it a little bit with a screwdriver, but just very slightly. I don't want to dent it or bend it or misshape it or anything like that. Okay, on to the next one. This one looks fine as well. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other four and show you the result. all set. All 8 of them are done. I'm gonna set this aside and then work on the distributor itself. I'm gonna replace the rotor and the points. How do I remove this thing? Is there a screw that holds it? Oh, it just comes off, okay. Oh, and capacitor, I think I ordered the capacitor as well. Gotta replace that one as well. First step is to unplug the capacitor and also remove it physically. Put that thing there. Ideally, you'd be doing this without having the cap on top of the whole thing that you're working on, but I prefer to have it that way than have to worry about the right location of each wire. Okay, so there's a plastic washer here. I want to make sure I don't lose that. Okay. And then it's the black wire. What's this thing hanging off of it? Okay. Oh, I guess it's a thing that stops it from turning. Okay. There's no power in the car right now. The battery's disconnected, so don't worry. I'm not gonna touch anything and burn the whole thing. Then we just undo this bolt here that holds the whole points thing. Okay. That's the old points. That's the new points thing. It comes with its own nut and washer. I guess this end of it here needs to go into that hole, and then it lines up, and then it can swivel like that to be adjusted. Doesn't need to be in any particular position because we're going to be adjusting it later. I'm just tightening it. I'm not even going to tighten it, I'm just screwing it in to keep it in place. By the way, check this out. I put up a step here so I can climb up and work more conveniently on the distributor. And I'm not a short guy at all. Still, this car is taller and wider than most cars that I've worked on, so yeah, this makes it more convenient. So the next step is to install, I guess the first step is to install the capacitor, which, here's the new capacitor. It has a picture of a guy on it. Distributor Doctor, I guess, is the brand. So not OEM, but should be good quality from what I've heard. And the screw is in. Okay, it's in position. Now, to adjust the points, we need to make sure that when the lobe is when this part of the points here is hitting the lobe of the distributor at the highest point, which is where it kind of is right now, there's a gap of between 0.35 and 0.4 millimeters. So move it to the right somehow. And when the points open up to about 0.35, yeah, there we go. Ah, there we go. I need to move it that way. And when the points are open about 0.35 to 0.4 millimeters, tighten the screw. I got lucky that the lobe is at its highest point right now. If it's not, you can just rotate it here. You can even install the rotor to turn this thing because it has a vacuum advance or whatever it's called. See if I do this, I can turn it by hand and make sure that it then gets to the highest point. So let me measure that with a feeler gauge and set it, tighten it to the right position. Yep, I got it to the point where 0.35 fits fine. Here. There we go. And 0.4, which is this lower blade, can't really fit. It fits if I kind of force it a little bit. Yeah, it fits with a lot of resistance. So I think this is the golden point, right between 0.35 and 0.4. So all I need to do now is install the new distributor rotor, like that. Okay. And put in the cap. Okay. Clips are in on both sides. I've reinstalled the old ignition wire temporarily just to do a test with this setup without the coil replaced, just to make sure that it starts and runs. I don't even need to test whether it runs well, just to make sure that it starts and runs. I'm a software engineer by trade, and I want to make one change at a time, because at the end, if it doesn't start, I'm not going to know what went wrong. So I want to isolate changes one by one, just like I do in my other work. So let's see if it starts. I've reattached the battery, and let's make sure that I didn't leave any loose ends here. I think everything is done. Okay, let's try this. That's not a very good sign. It wasn't in the choke position. Wow, now the exhaust is much cleaner. It doesn't smell like unburned fuel, or I don't know. This must there is a difference, I think. It's running better now. Okay, well now the smoke is starting to come. It's sounding smoother for sure. To warm up and see if I'll still have that choking when it's a little warmer. I think it's getting there. Yep. Yep, okay. I had some high hopes, but no. Nope, still the same. And that's too bad. Yeah, I really had hopes that the ignition would solve it, but it didn't. Maybe it's the coil. I still haven't replaced the coil, so try that. But even though it didn't solve the problem with the runnability, I can say it's running much better. And just the smell of the exhaust isn't so pungent right now. It's, I don't know, I think previously at least one of the cylinders wasn't running, probably because of that corroded wire, or possibly because of the distributor cap and rotor and points, and yeah, the whole thing. So yep, it's running better now, but still having issues. I mean, this is no ordinary car if I have to do this in order to work on it. The ignition coil is here under a bunch of wires and pipes and other stuff. Man, this ignition coil is just impossible to remove. It's held in by a bracket, that thing over there with the big bolt, and there's one of those on either side of it. Other side right there, and the bracket pinches the actual coil with the use of a screw that's somewhere behind it, basically where the two plates kind of meet. You can see it here slightly right there. That's the screw. That's right in there where it's not focused right now. That's the screw that I need to turn. But the bolt that holds the bracket is right next to it, and it's in the way. I can't get a socket onto that smaller bolt, screw, whatever it's called, because the bigger bolt for the bracket is in the way. I also can't put in an open end wrench because there's no clearance for it to turn in any direction. And I'm just at a loss on how to remove this stupid coil. Reading up online, people say that they just undo this bolt, this little screw here that holds it together. But I don't see how you can possibly put a wrench in there or a socket. They say one guy on a forum said he did it with a socket, but it just doesn't fit. It doesn't fit because of the other bolt that's there. Maybe looking at it from the other side of the engine is a little bit better. I removed this thing that was attached here. At least I can get a better view now of the two bolts. You can see them here and here. I managed to get to this bolt here with this setup with a small 1/4-inch drive socket and wrench, and I can now turn it and hopefully remove that stupid bolt. And then once I have clearance, I can remove the screw that's in this image just above it. The main issue with removing the bolts here that hold the bracket is the spacers. I removed one of them. You can see it's still attached to my magnet. I had the magnet underneath to hold it while I was undoing the bolt, and I managed to catch it. Otherwise it's going to drop somewhere in the engine, and who knows whether I'm going to find it. And now the other one is still there. I need to do the same thing there, and it looks like it's a slightly more complicated spacer setup. You can see it, there's a spacer behind the bracket, and there's also something like a rubber grommet or something of that sort. So first, I need to make sure that I don't drop it while removing it, and secondly, I need to figure out how to install it later when I'm reinstalling with the new ignition coil. So far, my plan is to install the bracket first, then put in the actual coil, and figure out how I'm going to tighten it. The new coil comes with its own bracket that seems easier to tighten because it's a flathead screwdriver, so I don't need to have space for a larger tool. And even if there's a bolt here, I'm still gonna be able to put a screwdriver here and tighten it. The bolt is unscrewed, but I don't want to pull it out yet because I want to catch that spacer right behind. So I'm gonna put in this magnetic tool here like that, so that when I pull out the bolt, the spacer will fall onto that. Let's see if that works. Alright, it's coming out now, I think. Okay. Did I manage to catch the spacer? Nope, but it fell to the ground, which is fine. I'll pick it up from there. Good thing is it didn't fall somewhere and get lost somewhere here. in the engine. Okay, I'm gonna keep the bolt there because it holds another piece of something, like an electrical piece or whatever it is, that's actually not connected to anything. That guy there. I gotta look that up and see why it's not connected to anything. But the coil is now loose and should come out. Oh man, something fell. A washer, I think. Yeah, see this stupid thing? Even if it's out, there's no way to get a socket in there. It's so tight. How did they do that? Man. Ridiculous British engineering. Okay, so this thing fell in, and there was a washer somewhere on it. Well, whatever it is, it's not in very good shape at all. Let's see if I can put the new bracket in without the coil. Good thing about the new bracket is the ends are open, so I can position the bolt, at least on one side. I can position the bolt and the washer and the spacer and whatever, and then just slide this thing in. That should be a lot easier than having to remove the whole bolt. So far so good. I've got the assembly like that. Okay, it's in. Both bolts are in. Okay, yeah, a socket fits here like this and fits on the other side as well. So if I ever need to take it out again, I can do that. Let's hope I have the clearance to do that with the bracket attached. Ah, dude. No. Really? Ah. Okay, let's try it. Rotate it a little. Maybe it'll fit that way. Come on, just a little bit. Maybe, yes, maybe, yes. Okay. See what side the plus needs to be on this side. So I need to rotate it that way. But it looks like it's going in. Yeah, we're good. We are good. In fact, I can even turn it a little more to give myself some more clearance. That should be good. And then I just need to tighten the screw. Let me see if I can do it by sliding the screwdriver from here. While I was wiggling with the screw there, trying to get to it, this hose came off just because I was trying to push it to the side. And there's not even any fuel in there. I don't know what it's for. Maybe it's for vapors or whatever, but it doesn't really matter. The point is, it's not under pressure. There's no fuel drippage from here. I could have just removed it in the beginning, and that would have given me a lot more clearance here. Anyway, just note to self and note to everybody who's watching, you can easily remove this hose. I still haven't been able to to get to that screw properly. I tried it with a smaller screwdriver, it didn't work. Tried it with a socket or a wrench with this kind of bit with a wobble extension. There's just so many things in the way. This stupid pipe here, this stupid pipe is totally in the way, and I have no idea why it had to go through there. They could have just come up with a better solution. Ugh. Oh, I see what they did there. This thing was attached with a zip tie to the old coil, and I just cut off the zip tie, and I figured I'd then check where that's supposed to go. Then I realized this is the same piece as the one that was held on by the bracket here. The one that wasn't attached to anything, that I reinstalled back in that position. So it seems like somebody replaced this piece, but didn't want to go through the trouble of putting it back in its place and just attached it with a zip tie here. And now, me being a dumbass and not knowing anything about this car, put the broken part back in and didn't position the new part where it belongs. So yeah, to do it right, I will have to remove the coil again. Oh man. Yeah, I guess I'll do that now. Might as well. Okay, I redid everything. I positioned that stupid piece in its correct place. And now I'm trying something else. I've attached only one of the two bolts for the bracket. I've slid in the actual coil, and now I can rotate the whole assembly so I have a better angle at the screw, and hopefully I will still have enough room to put the spacer and the bolt on this side. We'll find out. Maybe I'll have to undo it again, but let's try. So far so good. I'm able to tighten the screw from here. Now the real question is, can I then install the second bolt with the coil in place? Finally, that worked. I was able to slide the new bolt in. I had it attached with the spacer and I slid it through the end of the bracket and then kind of wiggled it to fit into the hole onto the back of the engine. So yeah, this should be fine now. Should be able to tighten everything. This little screw there is the one that tightens the actual coil, is already tightened, and we should be good to go. I just need to attach the electrical connections and then we're done. Should be able to start the car. All right. Pretty sure I reattached everything I had detached and plugged in everything I had unplugged. All should be good here. I've even connected the battery, and let's give it a go. See if it runs any better than before. And if it runs at all, actually, would be the first thing. Let me pop the choke. Okay, let's do this. Okay, it runs. Let it warm up. I'm gonna drive it up and down the ramp just to see if there's any difference. Yeah, no need to even try that because I can already feel it's choking up just like it did before. Yeah, oh, it almost died. Yeah, if I give it a lot of gas, then it starts going, but yeah. Unfortunately, the ignition maintenance didn't change anything. The next step is to change the fuel filters, to make sure that there's enough fuel, to make sure that the fuel is clean and all that stuff. So I've got these two small filters here for the carburetors, and I've got the main fuel filter that goes between the fuel tank and the pump. Also, I want to clean out the entire fuel tank itself. I want to rinse it out with fresh fuel because I noticed that there were some just dust particles or whatever they are floating inside. So I want to drain it and just rinse it out with fresh fuel, put the plug back in, and then put in fresh fuel. That should do it. And I want to do that before changing the filters in order not to clog up the new filters with crap. So, first step is to drain the old fuel, but the problem is this plug here is a 1/2 inch hex key, which is extremely difficult to find in Bulgaria here in Europe. And so I've calculated that that's approximately 13 millimeters in metric. It's just slightly less than that, but if this 13 millimeter hex key fits inside. If anything, it's gonna fit more snugly than the inch-sized thing. So let's see if it fits at all. Yep, it fits. Yep. Perfect. Alright, let's see. I fully expect this to be very stuck and not to have been opened in the last 50 years. Okay, did I break something or? What? Oh yeah, it's turning. Good. It's turning, guys. This is nice. That was easier than I expected, actually. Okay. So, to all of you guys working on your Rolls Royces, just so you know, a 1/2 inch hex key is replaceable by a 13mm hex key. So you can use that. I'm pretty sure they use the same size in the other plugs on the car. So keep that in mind. If you have it in a wrench bit, that's even better, but I couldn't find one in this size today locally. So yeah, I mean, I found them online, but didn't want to wait. All right, that's that. I removed the fuel level sender unit, and now I'm taking a look at the inside of the tank when it's empty, and it looks pretty good actually. There's a bunch of, you know, fuel residue or whatever it is, but overall it looks okay. Not bad. I want to get this crap out of there. And for that purpose, I'm gonna split. Yeah, see those little black pieces there? I want to get that stuff out of there. So for that purpose, I guess they're brown, not black. But yeah, for that purpose, I'm just gonna splash in some fresh fuel with the drain plug open, and hope that all of that just drains out. Yeah, the splashing fuel method didn't work, so I'm gonna try this method. I'm gonna attach a paper towel to the end of these extensions and see if I can wipe off that carburetor and those small pieces of debris. So the paper towel method didn't work very well either. I mean, it got some of the crap out, but not all of it. So I've got some gasoline here with a hole in the cap, and I'm gonna spray some fuel on the sides where that crap is. Whoops, there we go. So I can just try to get it to move. And there's a drain plug. Is there a drain plug? Yeah, there's a drain can underneath, catching everything. Let's see, did I do anything? Maybe. Yeah, I think I did manage to wash off some of the crap. I'm gonna give it some more rinsing, and should be good to go. Here's the final version after some more scrubbing and some more rinsing. I'd say not bad at all. Yeah, especially this side here looks very clean. There's some brown stuff here which I couldn't remove, but that's fine. It's not gonna actually dislodge, and it's just discoloration. I think it's not stuff that's gonna get in the fuel. So I think this job can be considered done. Next up, replace the fuel filters. I'm going to start with the main fuel filter, this big one that's under the car, because I want to get that done before I replace the small ones in the carburetors, in case any debris gets loose from the replacement itself, or it was somehow locked in there, and I want all of that crap to go into the old carburetor filters, which I'm then going to replace and make sure that the whole system is clean. So let's see how that looks. I need to undo those pipes, connections, and undo this guy, I guess, and that's gonna drop the whole assembly. I'm gonna take this out and clean it because it looks nasty. So yeah, and there's spider webs all over. Looks like I need to remove the entire bracket actually from these two bolts, because otherwise there's no way the this piece is gonna slide up because there's no room. Okay, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't overly tight or rusted or anything. Okay, it's not too bad, but the fact that this whole thing is covered in this goo tells you for sure that the fuel filter hasn't been replaced since the car was sprayed with the anti-rust thing. I have no idea how long ago that was, but it looks like it was pretty long ago. I'd also like to replace this hose and the one on the other side. The rear one is going to be annoying because there is not much room here, and the clamp is all the way here, and it's covered in this anti-rust goo, and it's going to be really difficult to access, but I'm going to try. But yeah, it's going to be easier to undo it from here first and then worry about the hoses. So let's try that. I'm sitting under this whole assembly right now, so I hope fuel doesn't gush out. I have a drain pan ready, but right now, the way I'm positioned, I am the drain pan. It's kind of cool how Rolls Royce puts these sleeves on top of the rubber hose in order not to damage the hose. This hose looks very old. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 50 years old. It's kinked here as well, cracked on the outside. I don't think it's leaking, but it's still very old, and I really want to replace it. I can already feel how this fuel is just gonna get all over me. Is it coming off? Yeah, it is. Okay. There. Okay, that wasn't too bad. Good thing I drained all the fuel from the fuel tank in advance. Okay, and now the other one, I'm just gonna pull here. I'm gonna twist it. It's turning already. Almost out. Okay, easy now. Huh. Okay, it's not too bad. Ugh, look at that nasty color. That was the tank side. So I have this fuel hose, which is 10 mil outer diameter, 7 mil inner diameter. Perfect. Yeah, it's exactly as tight as it should be, without being overly squeezed and without being loose. Yeah, good. So I can replace those old hoses. One hose removed. The other one still needs to be tackled. That's going to be a tougher one, but I think it's gonna be possible. That hose is a pain to get to. Because look at where it attaches. It's all the way up there. And there's no way to get a screwdriver in there to undo the hose clamp. It's basically touching the subframe, the hose clamp. So what I've done is I've put a long extension on a flathead bit. That's gonna be a pain. Finally came out. It only needed a little bit of untightening, which was good, because the pipe itself doesn't have like a nipple kind of thing like like they do on modern cars. Let's handle this thing now. I guess I don't really need to undo the bracket from the body, but I'm gonna do it just to clean it. Nasty stuff. Okay. I guess now I need a flathead to undo the top stuff, the top bolts. Okay. Let's see what's inside. A very dirty fuel filter. Well, I just started pulling it and this thing tore off. I assume it's supposed to slide off of here, but it's just so old that it tore off. But first I need to clean everything. Well, I'd say that came out pretty good, especially for a part that sits under the car and nobody ever sees. But yeah, I mean, pretty spotless. Look at that. It used to be much dirtier than that. So let's put the new filter in. There's a small gasket thingy that goes, where does it go? It goes under here, right around this collar here. Okay, that's in. And then you plug this thing in here. It needs to click. Might be useful to lube it up a little bit with a little bit of either engine oil or maybe silicone grease. Okay, lube it up a little bit. Let's see if that helps. Okay, that's in. I needed 2 hands for that. Then put this guy in. Nope, I forgot the main gasket. The big seal. Right there. Put that in here. And then you put this guy in. And then the thing that it's tightened with. And screw in the bolts and you're good. And done. The new assembly is assembled. And the new hoses are done. So let's start putting things back in. First I'm gonna install this hose because it's the hardest one to install. I want to do it before the filter assembly is in. And then I'll put this hose onto the assembly and then install it onto the car. I'm gonna make the clamp point downward so that it's easy for the next person to remove it. Slide it a little bit further in, like that. Let's try this. Okay, that's even better. You can access it from here at an angle. I don't need to tighten it too much. This is a low pressure fuel hose, just enough so it doesn't leak. There we go, that should do it. So I'm going to install the outlet hose while I still have everything here, because it's easier. But I need to make sure the hose clamp is oriented downward so that it can be unscrewed from underneath the car next time. Done. Okay, let's install this thing in the car then. First and foremost, I need to slide it into the supply hose, which is here. And I need to use my other hand for that, so I'll be right back. Done and tightened. Okay, now if I measured my hoses correctly, the holes here for the mounting bracket will line up nicely. And it looks like they are. Good. Let's put the bolts in. Done. And finally, hook up this hose here. Should be easy because it's very easily accessible. Somebody bent this pipe a little bit, but that shouldn't be a big deal. There we go. Doesn't need to be all that tight. Okay. And we're done. Good to go. I've put in some fresh gas and connected the battery, so let's see what happens. I don't hear the fuel pump running, but that's probably because it already has pressure up front. Let's see. Let's check for leaks. Looks fine, no leaks. Now that it's off the choke, it's still doing. Yep. Okay, yeah. No need to run it anymore. Yeah, it still has the same issue as before, so this didn't fix it. Let's change the carb filters. Small filters in the carbs are supposed to be in this chamber. And it looks like it's done by removing this, which is the fuel return hose, I guess, the overflow hose, and then pulling up the cap. But I then still need to figure out how to detach this guy. Okay, let's see what happens if I do that. Apparently this is a cap here, on which, in place of which, you can install a pressure gauge. So now, can I actually open the chamber? Okay, yep. It moves a little, so it looks like if I remove the supply hose or pipe, this thing will come off. And now this whole thing should be able to come off. Let me see. Make sure I don't drop anything. Okay. The gasket is really, really old. but I don't have another one on hand right now. So I'll have to order one and replace it, but I think for now I'll reinstall it with this gasket. Let's inspect the float though. Let's see if the float actually floats. Yeah, looks like it does. The needle should be dropping. Yep, it did drop. Yep, there we go. Looks like it's working fine. Now I need to just open up these two screws and replace the filter. Okay, let's see what comes out of here. All right. There is a seal here, but it looks like it's in good shape. Spring, and presumably that's the filter. Nope, that's a cover, and presumably that's the filter. Come on. Okay. Phew. Nasty. Nasty, nasty, nasty. Good thing I'm replacing these. I'm gonna clean this up as well. Okay, I cleaned it, and now the filter going in needs to slide into that slot. Yep. Cover or spacer, I guess, that holds it in place. I'm guessing that's the point of this thing. And then the spring. And the cover goes in this direction, such that the pipe is pointing down when the cap is on the actual float chamber. And it's in. Now the screws. Done. Reinstallation time. Of course, the old gasket is just completely broken, but it's gonna have to do for now. Okay. And that looks like it's positioned correctly. Not gonna tighten it. I'm just gonna make sure that it doesn't fall. That was the whole point. Lift up the nut and start screwing it on. Yep, I got it started. Before the final tightening, I want to tighten this guy first. That should be good enough. And then tighten the fuel pipe. Yeah, okay, that should be tight enough. And finally, the cap. Okay, that should be good. Then start the engine to make sure that everything is fine. I want to do things one by one. We're all buttoned up here, so let's start the engine. And I don't have very high hopes that it's gonna fix my problem, but at least I want to see if it runs and if there's any leaks, so that I know it's from this side. Let me drop the choke. Okay. Yep, the issue still exists, so continue with the other side. Okay, I undid the other one as well, pretty much the same thing, except there's no cap here for the pressure gauge. It's just a banjo bolt. Same kind of deal with this one. Nasty filter, needle is fine. So let's reinstall it. I just need to tighten them and we're good. So that didn't work either. I am running out of options before getting to carburetor tuning. The only thing that I haven't tried really is ignition timing, because I don't have a timing light. I've placed an order for one, so that's coming later. But yeah, fuel filters didn't help. Ignition tune-up didn't help. I guess I'll have to dig into carburetor tuning next, but let's see what the timing does. If that's my last hope before carburetor tuning. I mean, not that it's the end of the world if I have to tune the carburetors. In fact, it seems interesting from a technical point of view to me. But yeah, I just, you know, I have this feeling that it's going to be tough to get it right for somebody who hasn't done it before, because as far as I know, professionals do it by feel, by listening to the engine. They know what to listen for and all that stuff, and that stuff is not really in the instructions, and you can't really get a hang of it if you're doing it for the first time. But who knows, maybe I can do it. I think the budget so far has been reasonable, about 400 and a little bit euros. So that's it for now. Keep watching. If you saw anything that you want to comment on, please comment. People have been telling me about things that I didn't know. People have been sharing information or asking questions. I appreciate those comments, guys. Sometimes you're giving me very important technical information that helps me troubleshoot issues later, or sometimes you're encouraging me to continue working on something. In fact, people have been encouraging me to deal with the carburetors. They say it's not rocket science and that I should be able to do it. So I might just take you guys up on that. But yeah, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. I'll keep posting videos as I continue working on this car. You will be here every step of the way with me, and I'll be showing how this car comes along. Hopefully one day it'll be a good driver. It'll be something that I can just enjoy and drive every day. Well, okay, not every day, because it's not really a car you drive every day, but every once in a while for a nice sunny drive. Take care.